When it comes to the estates, you want to summon the diet first and get whichever mission is best for you, and then you want to seize land so that you can get rid of the debuff that you start off with. For the Bushi, we want to give supremacy over the crown as well as rights of council, aristocratic counselors. For the clergy, we'll give the oversight of the clergy, and for the merchants guild, we're going to give the monopoly on dyes, private trade fleets, free enterprises, as well as the patronage of the arts. The reason we gave the patronage of the arts is simply because of the prestige boost, and we definitely will be needing it. Also, make sure to focus on your military points and get a morale of armies if one is available to you. You need to also use up both of your traders, so you're gonna use one to collect trade from the Japan trade node, and the second one we're gonna be collecting trade from Hangzhou. This is actually not gonna give us anything at the very start, but later on we will be swapping that guy over here and we'll ask him to transfer trade towards the Nippon trade node from Jirin. So the best way to get ready for the war is to recruit a free company. This is going to get you over the force limit by quite a lot. But that is not an issue because we will be expanding fast and aggressively and we need a big army. You will be going into quite a few loans throughout this campaign, but nothing to fear. We will be paying off these loans quite easily after we finish taking a lot of lands. Our main expansion path is going to be first off towards the north of Honshu. So we want to take over all of the Togoku daimyos here. When it comes to allies, you most likely will be able to ally Yamana in the early game simply because they always are a rival to Hosokawa, and Hosokawa is allied to Tokugawa, which you want to take a piece of as soon as you possibly can. I recommend taking any ally that you can get from the western part of Japan, with the eastern part leaving it clear since you want to expand into that area first. On the 11th of December, you should be able to attack every one of your neighbors, and you have the best casus belli, the Sengoku casus belli, which basically means that you take 75% aggressive expansion for taking any surrounding neighbor. Declare on Kitabatake. I recommend taking Toki way later on simply because they have a level 3 fort there, so you need 9,000 units just to siege this down, and that would really be just a waste of time in the early game when you want to grab as much land as you possibly can. You should have Kitabatake by 1445. They most of the times never ally anybody, I noticed, but that is completely RNG of course, so you could end up in a situation when they do get some allies. In that case, I would just recommend restarting since the whole strategy revolves around taking Kitabatake. The next nation you want to declare on is Tsutsui as well as Hatakeyama, but this really depends on which one has better allies. So in the case of Hatakeyama, they have Imagawa and Hosokawa. Both nations are quite strong, and Tsutsui is getting sieged by Yamana, but Yamana cannot annex them, so after the siege they're gonna basically be left without an army and with an under strength fort, so that would be an easy picking. It is good to emphasize on this peninsula here, so taking Tsutsui and Kitabatake would be priority since it is easy taking both of these OPMs and they don't have any level 3 forts or anything of the sort. Hatakeyama, for example, has a level 3 fort in Echu, so that is going to be quite tough dealing with in the early game. It is also good to border Hosokawa for future wars, especially since if you get the Sengoku on Hosokawa and you annex them in one piece, then you can clear your way and annex all of the western part of Japan much faster. But as I initially stated, it is much smarter going for the east first, and then after you get a power base in the east, going for the western parts. Considering that Hosokawa is at war with Yamana, and this almost always happens, they never join in to help out Tokugawa. So Tokugawa is an easy kill, and it is the first step that we're going to use towards expanding into the east. Our beloved Tokugawa is gone, and this gives way for our expansion into Imagawa. You're going to be asked to change rivals quite often. I would recommend changing rivals to Eastern nations. Simply declare war as soon as you possibly can on any nation around you that is weak enough to be attacked. Whenever you are at war with the nation and you have one of their allies that is your rival as well, go for the humiliation so it helps you out with the age splendor bonus. But if a nation like this is not your rival, then simply just go for the cash since you want to have the truce expire as soon as possible. Continue your expansion, and before you do expand again, make sure that you actually court at least a few of your provinces. We now board the Uesugi, which will be our main target right now. We want to take over Uesugi as fast as possible. Taking over all of Uesugi is gonna get us into a coalition with pretty much all of Japan. So now the question is, how do we deal with this coalition so early on in the game with such a small army? It's quite easy. You don't deal with it. So what are we going to do first is we're going to be declaring war on everybody around us that we can declare war on, starting with nations that have absolutely no allies, such as in my case Hatakeyama, as well as Hosokawa, and make sure at the same time you're improving relations with Ashikaga. Oda has the advantage of the morale as well as the infantry compatibility. So no matter if the enemy army is superior to yours, you're still gonna have an easy time winning those battles. You don't want to stress out with rebels and putting down rebellions at the early game. So what I recommend is that you increase the autonomy in most of the provinces that you get. And don't forget to make full states from every single new state that you've conquered so as to improve your economy considerably. After you've occupied most of the bigger nations in Japan, before you decide who to peace out first, you need to make sure that you peace out the nation that gives you the least aggressive expansion for their full annexation. In my case, that would be Hatakeyama, and this would give me another expansion possibility into Shiba. So go for this. This might trigger a coalition, but the coalition would include Hatakeyama, Hosokawa, Uesugi, Amago, all of which are either occupied or I have a truce with. So go for this, and then you get a new expansion opportunity into Shiba. After you annex Shiba, you're gonna get access to Nambu as well, which is allied to Toki, but they will not join because of debt, and this is going to be a common occurrence within the Sengoku region. Remember, only take provinces and annex nations that do not give you too much aggressive expansion. You will be getting the call for peace, and that's going to screw you up with war exhaustion. You're going to have to use your Diplo points and lower that as soon as you can. Although we still have Hosokawa and Uesugi siege down, we're going to be taking out Nanbu, seeing as it's going to give us a much smaller coalition, and it's mainly going to be nations that will be easy to deal with. Getting Nambu also gives us access to Ando, and luckily enough Ando is allied to Utsunomiya, which in turn is allied to Chiba, so we can take care of all three of these nations with one swoop, go on the offensive and take out whichever is the weakest. It is quite crucial that you attack Toki, especially if they get into a coalition against you, because you want to have the level 3 fort that they have before you attack Ashikaga. So here comes the tricky part. Now that we have Toki completely sieged down, after we do peace them out, we might incur the wrath of Ashikaga, who might ask us to commit suicide. So before we do that, we need to actually take as much land as we can and get ready for the big ass war against the emperor himself. So we're going to be taking Toki here, and we're going to start coring it up. And at the same time, we're actually going to be taking all of the Uesugi lands, which is going to get us into a massive coalition with pretty much everybody else in the Japanese region. Make sure that you have enough admin points to core everything that you've taken. And as I said at the start of the video, you need to make sure that the whole eastern part of Japan is secure under your firm grasp. We have a line of forts here cutting out everything west of Japan from entering our main Togoku lands here. So if we just take out Sagami at the start of the war with the shogun, it's gonna make it a lot easier. If you still have any minor nations around that have not joined the coalition against you, then it's highly advised that you attack them before the big war against Ashikaga to lower the amount of vassals they have joining them in the war against you. There is a high chance that the emperor himself will declare war on you if you get too big, and if that is the case, you need to make sure that you have enough troops to fight this war. Now, once you are an independent daimyo, which is what you will become, your land force limit is going to increase as well as your naval force limit, so use that to your advantage. You should still have the forts here, so it is basically time to go into overdrive with annexing stuff around you. The emperor will probably not have too many daimyos joining the war against you. In my case, it's just Amago, which is getting besieged by Yamana, so I'm not really worried about it. As you can see, our superior troops are basically cutting their way through the Emperor's army. Remember that they cannot get over these forts here. You also can choose the independent daimyo government reform now that you are an independent nation, which will give you plus 10 morale of armies and plus 10 infantry compatibility. After you win the war against the shogun, you will become the very new shogun, which means you get the shogunate government type and you have these really awesome abilities here, and it also means that all of these smaller nations are now your daimyos. But in order to fully form Japan, you need to click this Unite Japan button, and If you do that, all of these daimyos will become independent. So as far as I am concerned, this is not the true Japan. This is just the shogunate version. You can keep the shogunate, which is going to be quite OP if you want to make the whole world your daimyo. Also remember that if you choose to stay as the shogun, there is a high chance that some of your daimyos will try to break free from you, in which case that is a free kill. Basically, you're going to be able to annex these nations for a lot less war score. It is October 1474 and we finally integrated the last of our daimyos, Yamana. As such, all of the Japanese Honshu, Kyushu and other main islands have been taken and are now part of the Oda shogunate. We've also converted all of the Ainus to our religion, which means that we get the island of Kurils for free, and it is our culture and our religion. It also unlocks the ability to take over other lands, and it means that we can now expand anywhere we'd like. You have the option of either staying as the shogunate and making the world your daimyo, or you can form Japan, which is what I'm gonna show you because that is the main theme of this video. And you can choose to get new ideas. Do not go for that. Do not change your ideas simply because the Oda ideas are the most OP ideas in the game. You also get the mission Unite Japan, which gives you a permanent claim on Okinawa, but they are a tributary of Ming, so do not touch them for now. As I previously mentioned, your main expansion path should be in Donghai and the northern part of Manchu. After you've taken these parts and you've gotten your first idea, which should be exploration, cut off the Russians by colonizing these 3 provinces here so they don't have access to the rest of Siberia, and afterwards take over Taiwan and move on into the Philippines and the Malacca trade node before the Europeans arrive, as this is one of the richest trade areas in the game and definitely worth taking. You can also expand into Australia. I do not recommend going for North America first. You could start colonizing North America after you've finished taking the Malaccan parts and cutting off the Russians from the rest of Siberia though. Attacking this region is also a good idea, but I would do it after they stop being a tributary of Ming, or after you have a strong enough presence in the Manchu area here so that you can attack Ming without any issues. Also focus on rebuilding your nation, pay off your loans that you still have, which shouldn't be such an issue now since you do have a proper economy, and build up your navy and your army. Also remember that Iwami as well as Echigo will become gold provinces, so ensure that you have 10 production in both of these provinces. Let's start talking about ideas. Of course, as I previously mentioned, you should go for exploration first, which is integral to your expansion path, and as a second idea, it is up to you and it depends on your situation. If you'd like to go for a military idea, you should go for quality ideas, or you could also go for quantity if you like to go for a world conquest and you need some extra troops. I also recommend going for religious or economic. Religious simply because you are the only Shinto nation and you want to make the whole world Shinto, don't you?